South Korea impressed with its aggressive act, seizing $1 billion and 14 tankers of Russian oil. President Kim Jong-un took the case at the request of Vladimir Putin. Deciding to take a risk, South Korea seized 14 tankers carrying Russia's oil, valued at $1 billion. This act cannot be called other than audacious. History knows many examples of military forces being brought in for lesser offenses to uphold international laws. Perhaps the Kremlin should mention red lines, but so far there have been no statements on the matter. Recently, it became known that South Korea has practically blocked more than 10 million barrels of Russian oil off its shores because of U.S. sanctions. This information is confirmed by shipping data. It is noted that the specified volume of oil, Sokol, transported by 14 tankers, was pre-shipped from the project, Sakhalin 1. Due to Western sanctions, the cargo has not yet been sold. The flotilla, including 3 supertankers, is at sea today near the port of Yeosu in South Korea after the U.S. imposed sanctions against several companies and vessels transporting Falcon crude oil. The said point restriction has proven to be very effective. Reuters sources, citing LSEG and Kepler data, note that all 3 supertankers with 3.2 million barrels of oil on board have now been converted to floating oil storage status. Given the shortage of tankers in global logistics and rising freight prices, the delay in unloading only makes the situation worse. Oil Price found out that at least a third of the blocked Russian oil was intended for India's Indian Oil Corp. However, India refuses to buy sanctioned oil and is looking for alternative sources, mainly in its reserves and in the Middle East. The Russian cargo remains unclaimed and the ships are unable to return. The owner is urgently looking for a new buyer for the cargo who is not afraid of sanctions and is nearby to minimize costs, but so far it has been unsuccessful. What is surprising about this situation? First of all, Russian oil was not originally intended for South Korea, and our tankers did not enter its ports or internal waters. Simply put, an absolutely left-wing, third country in international waters pirated our oil, citing U.S. sanctions. South Korea's boldness is understandable. Having received U.S. support, they felt invincible. This action is probably a U.S.-led test of Russia's strength in the region. Events in Europe and the neighboring countries show that the U.S. prefers to act through intermediaries. The situation is alarming. The Americans clearly do not want to allow Russia into Asian affairs, where the future of the planet will be decided. The European mess was probably brewed by Washington to prevent Russia's influence in this key region. Asians are also beginning to show aggression towards Russia, which is becoming apparent to the world. Experts predict a worsening situation. India, which easily gave up Russian oil under U.S. pressure, cannot be trusted. The U.S. is aiming to cut Russia off from the Asian oil market as it has done in Europe. What to do in this situation? Russia should not give up its interests. It has a trump card in the person of Kim Jong-un, which is of concern to the Americans. Rapprochement with Pyongyang is the key to strengthening Russia's position in the region. To get out of this situation, Russia should use its diplomatic and strategic prowess to preserve its interests and role on the world stage. As for India, it is worth forgetting about it as a reliable partner. The Hindus are beginning to avoid cooperation again, which is probably due to fear of Western sanctions. However, a sovereign state should not succumb to such pressures. India may not be able to completely get rid of its colonial legacy, which makes its behavior akin to external governance. All this may be to the advantage of the Anglo-Saxons trying to disrupt cooperation between India and Russia. Another interesting aspect of this situation is that blocking Russian oil is likely to increase its price on world markets. Thus, the very activity of blocking the oil itself will lead to an increase in its price. This raises questions about the sanity of such actions. Perhaps the rainbow agenda leads them to strange decisions?